Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming out. So not silver, copper. I'm more of a copper bull than I am a silver bull. We are focused on copper in British Columbia. I was recently in Europe. I was touring last week, and one of the tour guides always started the presentation with a quote, and I followed with this quote, which I think is quite appropriate during this point of time in the cycle. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. So there's been a lot of talk of where we are in this cycle. I think we are in the very beginning days. I think the market turned in June, emerging from one of the longest, deepest, most ugliest bear markets that our markets have ever seen. I think the top was 2011, 2012 of the last bull market. So basically we've been in the depths of a 14-year bear market. I believe it turned in June. It certainly turned for us. Our share price has doubled since then. We secured an investment from Frank Juster's VRIC group. We outlined a pretty significant resource at one of our projects, Clayule, and have returned some of the best copper gold porphyry intercepts in BC this year. I've already made a bunch of forward-looking statements. I'm going to make a bunch more. So this is a pretty good slide for lots of different reasons. Gives you a sense of where our projects are located. We have 5 porphyry copper gold projects in north central BC. And it's also a good opportunity to talk about the importance of positive relationships with First Nations. I think as an exploration company in BC, there's 3 pillars that one must have. One is obviously prospective geology. The other is access to capital to advance your projects. And lastly, and more importantly, is positive relationships with local First Nations. It's something we spend a lot of time on. I'm happy to say I think we have very positive relationships. We have agreements in place with most of our projects, and it's something that we are engaged with on almost a weekly basis. The best piece of advice I ever heard from a chief was no surprises. So it's a constant communication, consultation, no surprises. This is a busy slide, but I mean, basically it sums up why I think Pacific Ridge is such a compelling opportunity. I mentioned in June we secured a strategic investment from Frank Juster's VRIC group. That was a 14-cent unit. We've more than doubled since that time. Our goal is to become BC's leading copper exploration company. And I'm not going to get into the macro for copper, but the fundamentals look absolutely amazing. You know, when I started with Pacific Ridge in 2021, the supply-demand gap was principally driven by just the electrification of society, electric vehicles. But since that time, the gap has just widened with AI, data centers, robotics. So we're in a great place here with our focus on copper in a Tier 1 jurisdiction. We're seeing a lot of interest in copper projects in BC. If you look at the right-hand slide, you can see the amount of strategic investments, acquisitions, joint ventures, and BC is continuing to attract a lot of attention. We have 5 projects, but Clayule and RDP are our flagships. We've spent about $15 million at Clayule since 2021. We just announced a resource this past summer, 334 million tons of a 0.33 copper equivalent, or 2.42 billion pounds copper equivalent. So it's a pretty significant resource. It remains open. We know we can grow it, and there are a number of other targets at Clayule that we'll look to test this year also. So while Clayule underpins the valuation, RDP is more of a discovery opportunity. It's earlier stage, but it's delivered some of BC's best porphyry copper gold intervals. I'm not going to talk too much about the management. I'm not a geologist. I've been involved since 2001, and that's why I like to revisit where we were in 2001. That was the bottom of the last bear market. And funnily enough, actually, my first job in the mineral exploration space was with another Frank Juster company called Wheaton River Minerals. That merged with Goldcorp and was subsequently acquired by Newmont. So where we are today, I think it's something similar to 2003, 2004. We're out of the bear market. Capital is coming in. We're seeing a lot of interest. I was expecting to see some more younger faces here today, so we're still not quite there. We're early days still. Shares, we only have 62 million shares issued. Very liquid trader. We trade 1 to 2 million shares a day, so great liquidity. I think that's enabled participants in our last several financings who are well on the money have been able to get in and get out, and that is the name of the game. You're here to make money. We have the liquidity that people that participate can easily get in and out. We've traded more than 120 million shares since September 1, trade 1 to 2 million shares a day. Cash side, about $2 million. So we're not in an immediate need to access capital, but we will have to do so prior to the start of exploration sometime in June. We're finalizing our exploration plans and budget right now, but expect us to go back to Clyoul, looking to expand the resource, testing new targets, and also going back to RDP and following up on some of those spectacular drill results. Where we are, it's a very good address, a very good location, and in the last couple weeks or last year, it's just got that much better. Several weeks ago, there was a resource conference in Prince George. Centerra, who is the operator and owner of Mount Milligan and Chemist, they recently announced that they're extending the mine life at Mount Milligan by 10 years. They also announced they're looking at a restart of Chemist. So all of our projects are located between Chemist and Mount Milligan. And on top of that, you've seen a lot of the southern end of the Toodoggone, which includes Joy and Lawyers, a lot of positive news out there. We've had AMARC come up with a brand new discovery at their Joy. In January of last year, they reported an intercept of 110 meters of 2.6 copper equivalent. A spectacular hole. Their stock quintupled. You've had Thesis, Lawyers come up with a pre-feasibility study. So this whole area here is a great place to be. Very pleased with the projects that we have. Talking about Clyoul, we own it 100%. It's a large project, 100 square kilometers. We acquired this option initially from Centerra in 2020. We've spent about over $15 million here since 2021, drilling about 20,000 meters. That enables us to publish that resource just this past summer, 334 million tons, which equates to about 2.42 billion pounds copper equivalent. It's big, it's open, it can get bigger, but we're going to be focused this year on the continued resource expansion and testing some of these other targets that occur along this 6-kilometer long mineralized trend. I think we need to get Clyoul main zone above 500 million tons. I think that can be done with continued expansion at KMZ and possibly a new discovery at a number of these other targets. Porphyries do tend to occur in clusters, but we've just been focused on Clyoul main zone, so I'm pretty sure that we're going to come up with something else this year. This is a pretty, I'm not going to say a complicated side, but it's pretty busy, but I'd like to point it out because we report in a copper equivalent. And that enables us to compare ourselves to other BC copper exploration development companies that also have a resource and demonstrate just how undervalued we are. But in reality, this is a gold copper deposit. It is about a 2-to-1 value ratio gold to copper. So if we were to report this in a gold equivalent, we would have 5.7 million ounces gold equivalent. I think that helps people understand that this is already pretty big and it can get bigger. So we talked a little bit about what we want to do at Clyoul. We're going to look to continue to drill for expanding that resource and also testing a number of other targets. I expect that we'll be drilling a minimum 5,000 meters here, but we'll have a plan to report in the next several months. So Clyoul underpins the valuation with that resource. RDP is a higher grade, earlier stage discovery opportunity. We've reported some significant drill results here. This year we drilled about 5 holes in 2,500 meters. And one of the reasons we went back there this year was because of that discovery of AMARC. It compares quite favorably. We're very pleased with what we've returned. We're looking forward to getting back there this year. But there is a slide where we compare ourselves to a number of our peers that demonstrates that we're very much undervalued. So I would consider our peers Kodiak Copper, Northwest Copper, Vizsla Copper. And if we look at the resources, if we look at the tonnage, we look at the grade, Clyoul main zone compares very favorably. It actually has some advantages, is that it's just one zone of mineralization versus a number of different zones. It's copper gold versus a copper moly. It's a current resource versus a historic resource. The only advantage that our peers have that are trading 6 to 8 times higher than we are is that they're road accessible. But we're within 8 kilometers of road and power, so I don't think that justifies such a gap. So Pacific Ridge, we're an exploration play, but we're also absolutely a valuation play. I think investors can take confidence that if people like Frank Juster have invested their money in this company, that you've had a lot of people take a close look at the team and its projects and have put their money to work. Thank you.